Good evening, Tansy, Aneen, and welcome to APTN National News Weekend. I'm Daryl Stranger. This week, the Saskatoon Police Service arrested a 9th suspect in the Megan Gallagher murder investigation. Gallagher was reported missing from Saskatoon in September of 2020. Her remains were found near St. Louis, Saskatchewan 2 years later on September the 29th, 2022. Summer Sky Henry was arrested in Saskatoon yesterday after a lengthy manhunt and charged with first-degree murder. Henry appeared in court and was remanded until January the 12th. Ontario Provincial Police Constable Greg Pershala was laid to rest in Barrie, Ontario this week. He was shot and killed last week during a roadside check, leading politicians to get caught up in the debate over the Liberal government's stance on the bail system. Randall McKenzie of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and Brandy Stewart Sperry are charged with first-degree murder in the death of Constable Pershala. McKenzie was out on bail while facing charges of assault and weapons-related offences. This led to Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre recently calling Canada's bail regulations a catch-and-release system in need of stricter rules. But on Wednesday, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh accused the Conservatives of playing politics with the issue.
It is common that the Conservatives would politicize issues around concerns around criminal justice. It seems to be something that Conservatives often do. It is a very serious matter and should be taken seriously, and it shouldn't be something that's politicized. It should be about what we're doing to keep people safe and to keep our communities safe, and not responding in a way that is overly charged with trying to win political points, but making a decision that is in the best interest of society.
Last month, a 54-year-old Tsimshian and Niska man was found dead in a homeless encampment in northern BC. A City of Terrace bylaw officer discovered Richard Nelson's body in a tent during extremely cold conditions. Nelson's family is calling for more support for the homeless. APTN's Lee Wilson reports.
And of course we're Eagles, and he was very proud of that.
Diana Ganu holds the belt of her brother, Richard Nelson. They grew up in Port Edward in Kitsim-Kalem. Her brother became a fisherman like their father, and he even operated his own boat. But after many losses in their family, Nelson struggled with alcohol and had been homeless for 10 years. She would see her brother often in the City of Terrace.
I told him, you know, tomorrow's the burial, the day we buried, our anniversary burying our mother. I said, well, pick you up. We'll go to the gravesite, and I made something for her.
Ganu did not get to see her brother that next day. According to the RCMP, his body was discovered by a City of Terrace bylaw officer in a tent during -20 below freezing conditions right before the Christmas holiday. It was a phone call she feared receiving. She would often tell her brother to take care of himself.
It's going to be the worst phone call in the world for me. We lost so much. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you. You're my brother. You're there for me. Now when I go out in the streets, I always say, well, no more looking for my brother. No more looking for him. No more riding all the streets to find him, to go see he's okay, to get him, you know, make sure he's warm.
The City of Terrace has been struggling with a growing homeless population. Last year, a tent city or encampment was a topic of debate for the City Council and advocates. In an email statement to APTN News, Kasan Society, a non-profit operating the cold weather shelter in the city, said they did have spaces available. I can tell you that Richard did have access to our shelter on the evening of his passing. Our shelter spaces are accessible 24/7, and during extreme weather, we always ensure that we have sufficient overflow capacity for those seeking shelter. Individuals will sometimes choose not to access the shelter. In an email statement, the BC Ministry of Housing acknowledged homelessness is a critical priority that needs to be addressed. The BC government, through BC Housing, has opened 119 affordable housing spaces for seniors, individuals, and families in Terrace, with 251 affordable second-stage housing units under construction for youth, seniors, individuals, and families. BC Housing also funds 36 spaces for people in need, but we know there is more to do. Richard Nelson's family is uncertain why he did not access the cold weather shelter the night he passed. They are still waiting for confirmation from the coroner's office on the cause of death. GNU believes more supports to overcome addictions and challenges of being homeless are needed.
Homeless people are very vulnerable. They're very vulnerable people. You know, if nobody stands up and says, you know, look out for me, you know, nobody would be there for them.
Yesterday, the homeless encampment and terrace appeared to be unoccupied. A funeral ceremony for Richard Nelson is expected to take place in Kitsamkalem in coming weeks. Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Terrace.
In Winnipeg, the search for Buffalo woman continues. Believed to be a victim of alleged serial killer Jeremy Skibicki, the unidentified woman is thought to be the first of the 4 homicides he's being charged with. As part of the community efforts to find her identity and body, Daryl Contois has been searching non-stop for her and other missing and murdered Indigenous women. APTN's Sav Jones managed to catch up with him on his search to see how things are going.
Daryl Contois is out on the streets looking for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. There are too many incidents happening around Winnipeg, and he feels that his efforts can make a difference. How are things going with trying to identify who Buffalo Woman is? What progress are you making?
We're meeting with the people on the street and trying to show the jacket what the police have found, and try to identify who owns the jacket. We're making progress on, like a lot of people are saying, pretty much the same person that they gave, that our police are checking on now and contacting family to get DNA. So hopefully we put a name to the jacket and who the first victim was.
What kind of information are you getting from like the families and community members about where the women might be?
They don't even know. You know what? They're too distraught. Their mind's not thinking right. So you know, if you ever had a missing person or a loved one that's missing, you think the worst. So until you have confirmation that they're okay, then your system changes. So you know, we try our best to help out, bring closure to families.
So it sounds like there's maybe no real point of, you know, where they most likely are. They could be anywhere in the city.
Could be anywhere. Yeah. We try to do what the police do and track down in their last location and work from there. Try to make contact, show posters, put up posters, and try to get the community involvement. You know, and without tips, we wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Like we wouldn't like looking in a needle in a haystack. Mm-hmm. But you know, we keep at it. You know, and hopefully we have a good outcome.
What type of help are you getting from like the bigger organizations like the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs or the Manitoba Métis Federation, or have they been handing out any help?
With the Buffalo Woman Long Plains First Nation, Kyra Wilson, has been helping out. You know, she's been supplying the camp, like helping with the stuff we need, and you know, I believe the operations are open today for Brady landfill. We just asked them not to dump where Rebecca's remains were found, and that area be closed. So,
I love you.
Yeah, we are out there searching and doing our best to find these loved ones. We got a long list of girls that are missing here in the city. If you're listening to the radio, Danica Flett, contact family. Gabby Marsden, please contact family. You know, they've been missing since one New Year's and the other one about in September. So we're trying to help missing person locate them, and you know, Winnipeg Police, and trying to get our feet on the ground and ask questions, you know, to whereabouts, where they would be.
Have you noticed, is there like a sense of people within the community feeling safer now that the accused serial killer is not around, or are people still feeling uncertain?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's been happening for quite a while. It had to be, because where has he been dumping these bodies? You know, he doesn't have a vehicle, he doesn't have access to anything, so they're pretty much put in dumpsters and sent off to the dump, you know, and that's why we had the garbage dumps all blocked off, so we want them searched, you know, and bring the loved ones home. You know, they're loved by someone, you know, they got families out there that love them, you know, and they want them home.
I mean, I think that's a beautiful place to end. You know, thank you so much for talking with us today, Daryl. I really appreciate it, and appreciate all the work that you do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And another word, you know, anybody that's out there that's young and that, make contact with your family and let them know that where you are and when you're going to be home. You know, it doesn't take much. You know, even borrow a phone or something if you don't have one. Just make contact with family and let them know that you're safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
The woman accused of faking her and her son's death and then crossing into the United States with forged ID appeared in court by phone earlier in the week. Dawn Walker pleaded not guilty to 9 charges against her, including identity theft, forging a passport, abducting her son in contravention of a custody order, and illegally crossing the U.S. border. Walker and her son were reported missing from Saskatoon in July. After a 2-week search, they were located in Oregon. She has elected to go straight to trial before a judge only. Walker is a former employee of the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations. She is scheduled to appear in a Saskatoon court on February the 16th. All right, we have to step aside for a short break, but still ahead, a look back at the first official National Ribbon Skirt Day. Welcome back to APTN National News Weekend. Wednesday marked the first official National Ribbon Skirt Day. Across the country, many people wore their skirts and shirts to mark the event. It all began in Saskatchewan in December of 2020 when then 10-year-old Isabella Kulak from the Cody First Nation was sent home from a formal wear school event in Kamsack. A teacher's assistant told Isabella her ribbon skirt was not formal. Isabella felt shamed. She told her parents, and her grandmother posted the incident to Facebook, drawing international support. On January the 4th, 2021, supporters walked Isabella and her family to the school. A year later, the school apologized and declared January 4th Ribbon Skirt Day. In March of 2022, Saskatchewan Senator Mary Jane McCallum proposed a bill to recognize National Ribbon Skirt Day. The bill passed a few weeks ago, making January the 4th the first official National Ribbon Skirt Day. And with Wednesday being the first National Ribbon Skirt Day, one Mi'kmaq community is already making sure there are enough skirts for next year, while at the same time building relationships one stitch at a time. Angel Moore explains how.
This sewing workshop at the Sabaganagati First Nation Community Centre began with an idea to make regalia for children. Jill Paul's 5 children love powwows and saw the need.
Most children are turned away from powwows because they don't have regalia to dance. So when we created the Facebook group called Sabaganagati Regalia Creations, we had over 150 people join immediately.
After Paul secured funding and donations, the sewing room opened last November. No experience necessary to learn the basics of sewing. Stephanie Doucette helped with the funding.
As a first-time sewer myself, I'm excited to rock my skirt once we get these finished, and I'm going to be sporting it proudly.
Instructors volunteer their sewing experience. Deanne Sack, band counselor, says sewing is healing. She learned how to make ribbon skirts from YouTube.
I have no friggin' clue, but I figured out how to make pockets. I figured out applique. I figured out a hem and to sew in elastics as part of my healing journey.
Brooks Willis, first-time band counselor, says the workshops are more than sewing. They are reviving culture that was lost in residential schools.
Not always has our community had access to culture, especially being just 5 minutes away from the only residential school in Atlantic Canada. So our community was kind of ground zero, at least in this side of Turtle Island, to have such a heavy impact in that loss and the intergenerational impacts of it.
The youngest of the group is 14-year-old Nakira Howe. She came with her mom to make her own ribbon skirt, her own way.
You get to have fun with people, you get to make stuff, and you just get to have fun and do whatever you want to make.
Mary Lucy Bernard, a Mi'kmaq speaker and educator, says the workshops are more than sewing.
And you get to be around people that you're not normally around. Like I work at the school and I don't see, the only people I see are the ones at the school. So this gives me a chance to be around someone else that's, plus I live alone.
As the workshops continue, Bernard hopes to eventually include the Mi'kmaq language.
I think I could come in and introduce the language and say, what the words are, different words that we use for sewing and the thread and the scissors and in Mi'kmaq, and help along, let them catch on with the words.
The workshops are a success. Paul and Doucette hope to keep the program going with community support.
So people have been truly willing to help out, dive in, pitch in, support, donate, and so it's just growing. And that's where I'm really excited. It's just to keep, and so we'll just keep writing proposals and finding more funding if we can.
Paul says the sewing room is a safe place for people to come together.
It's pretty cool watching everyone come in here because they're all kind of in a shell at first, but then once they start warming up to you can see like their confidence boosts, and then when they're all complete their skirt, they're just beaming. Like it's pretty cool to watch, yeah.
Once ribbon skirts are mastered, sewing regalia will be next, in time for powwow season. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Saskatchewan First Nation.
All right, it's time to step aside one final time. When we come back, a look at a fun new hands-on exhibition in Toronto that promotes Indigenous cultures. Welcome back to APTN National News Weekend. The 2023 World Junior Ice Hockey Championships wrapped up Thursday with Canada taking home the gold medal. In celebration of Indigenous culture, the event recruited Indigenous artists to design one-of-a-kind hockey sticks. Our reporter Sarah Connors caught up with one of the artists.
These hockey sticks are a dream come true for Mi'kmaq artist Lauren Julian. The Millbrook First Nation member from Nova Scotia was one of 4 Indigenous artists selected to design a hockey stick for the 2023 World Junior Ice Hockey Championships.
It's a special time to, just to be part of this, to be, and for more people to see my work.
This year, Moncton and Halifax hosted the tournament. An East Coast tournament offered the chance for local Indigenous artists to share their link to hockey. For Julian, that's his great-grandfather, Chief Joseph Julian, who was a renowned stick maker.
I know there was a big order that Eaton's had at one time, and it was 12,000 hockey sticks that they had an order for.
It took Julian around a week to make 20 sticks, totaling around 100 hours of work. A feature of his design includes an eagle in flight as part of the 7 sacred teachings.
They call them the grandfather teachings, and the eagle represents love, and also an eagle is protection as well.
At the end of every game, one player from each team is named player of the game and given a hockey stick. The 2023 World Junior Ice Hockey Championships wrap up today with Canada playing Czechia for the gold medal.
It just felt really good to be part of this project.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News.
A fun, educational, and hands-on exhibition at the Ontario Science Centre in Toronto has become a popular attraction. Indigenous Ingenuity offers a glimpse into First Nations, Métis, and Inuit cultures and traditions. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
And it will start to fall in, but that's normal because an igloo is just a bunch of rotating arches.
According to researcher Donna Francis, building an igloo is one of the most popular exhibits to experience here.
Kids really enjoy putting that together, taking a lot of pride in seeing it when it's set up. But then there's also exhibits that really appeal to their competitive nature. So with the bow and arrow, trying to hunt with that, compete with their friends. Also with the kayak and canoeing, there are components where they're racing against their friends and also testing out their knowledge at the same time, as well as the fishing. So those ones in particular, because of that competitive nature, are really lovely too.
The exhibition was created by the Montreal Science Centre in collaboration with Indigenous elders from more than a dozen nations across Canada. It's the result of 2 years of work.
Provides an awareness. It's really opening the door to an aspect of a culture in a different way maybe than many people have been experiencing before. It's really paralleling, it's really showing the attributes of Indigenous science. Some of this, my favorite part of it is really getting a chance to see the storytelling, to see the knowledge passed on from one person to another. And personally as a scientist, I am really enjoying being able to see those parallels, to understand Western science and Indigenous science in so many ways that they are similar, and the key elements that maybe Western science can really learn from that.
Robert Trewortha brought his kids out for a fun afternoon. He said it's great to see the culture and the hands-on abilities for the kids to learn.
I think if we're going to understand our past and our history, we have to understand how people lived before settlers were here. And I think it's important to understand how people lived on the land and how important the land was to Canada and to the people that lived here before.
Eric Arava is from Toronto. He says the Science Centre was his favorite place to visit growing up. When he heard about Indigenous Ingenuity, he thought it was a great opportunity for his daughter to learn.
She's loving it really so much, and she's actually pretty shocked about all the things right now too that just make so much sense for her, and learning about things like the sleds and the building and why that we're reusing animals and why we have all these other things that were done before to survive, because it's a little bit of a different environment for her growing up right now.
The exhibition will run until April 23rd. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Toronto.
All right, that's all we have for you tonight on APTN National News Weekend. If you missed any of our stories throughout the week, our website, aptnnews.ca, has you covered. I'm Daryl Stranger. For all of us here, thank you for joining us. Jimmy Gwitch, have a great night, and look after one another.